I'm gonna smash your boy, guys. I'm gonna smash your boy.
YouTube, what's going on? So I'm finally back. It's been about 6 months. My life's been super busy, been super hectic. I've been working a lot lately. I got a daughter, I got a family. So things have just been super hectic. But don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get 500 subscribers. I think we're at like 250 or close to 250 at least. I'm trying to get monetized so we can post more content and make more videos. I'm trying to get back on the content grind and actually, put content out. But anyways, I stream just about every night, or at least I try to. I play games like Black Ops 6, NBA 2K25, Elden Ring, Dark Souls. So if any of that suits your fancy, definitely stop in, say what's up, pop in the chat, all that kind of stuff. So we're pretty versatile in terms of the games that we play. I like to play a bunch of different stuff. But anyways, getting right into the video, the whole point of today's video is I kind of wanted to make, some tips and some tricks on how to get better at Call of Duty. I think there's a few things that you can really focus on as a newer player, or even as, someone that's been playing for a while, that can definitely help your game play out in terms of just getting better at the game and increasing your KD, or, bringing your KD up or anything like that. Just winning more games, this will definitely help you out a bunch. So I want to start this off by saying I don't consider myself to be a pro or even the best player of all time or anything like that. I think I'm pretty decent, like slightly above average, maybe on a good day. But I have been playing these games for a long time, so I think I have decent input. I like to think I'm an unk at this point when it comes to these games. I've been playing Call of Duty for a really long time. Like I'm talking COD 4, World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, MW3. I've been playing these games for a really long time, and I played just about every Call of Duty that's come out at this point. So I like to think I'm decent at these games. I've been playing rank play for a long time. I even had an MLG Game Battles team. We were like 72 and 15 on Black Ops 3, and Black Ops 2 we were decent too. But, we even considered going to play on a LAN tournament at some point, but it's probably good that we did it because we probably would have got absolutely slammed. But anyways, getting right into it, I think when it comes to Call of Duty, something that is the most important thing when it comes to these games is your map awareness. Even more than your gun skill. And when it comes to map awareness, I'm talking about being able to read enemy spawns, understanding where you're spawning, understanding where you're at on the map in terms of your enemies and stuff like that, understanding if you're pushed up too far, and being able to read your mini-map. Because something that I see a lot of the time when I'm playing with my friends, or anybody in general, people hate to get shot in the back on these games. And that simply comes down to, that's just COD timing a lot of the time, but also if you can understand where the enemy team is spawning at, and if they're spawning behind you, if you're pushed up too far, and you can eliminate those times where you're getting shot in the back. Now, there is going to be that time where they're just going to flank you, and you didn't read that, or you didn't catch that, and they're behind you, and then you just get killed from the back, and that's going to happen. It's Call of Duty. But your mini-map is going to be very important because it gives you a lot of information. You're going to see where your teammates are and where they're going. And you kind of generally want to stick around your teammates and not push up too far, because if you do, you're going to end up flipping the spawns. And understanding how far that is and understanding where you're spawning at and stuff like that, it's all very important. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, map awareness comes down to the decisions you're making as to the routes you're running, where you're going on the map, and making sure that you don't get caught out of place, so you don't get shot in the back, or you don't get caught in front of the enemy and they're behind you or anything like that. That's going to be the key thing when it comes to your map awareness. Being able to read the spawns, use your mini-map efficiently, and being able to know when you need to push and know when you need to stay back. Now, obviously, this changes because, when you're playing something like Hardpoint, there's times when you want to push and flip the spawn so you can get the better spawn to be able to be closer to the hardpoint and stuff like that. And then also in Domination, there's times when you flip the spawn and you're trying to take, maybe A or C or whatever it may be. There's times when you do want to flip spawns, and then there's times when you obviously want to keep a certain spawn because you have a better portion of the map. So map awareness is really, really important. So the next thing that I want to talk about that I think is super important in Call of Duty, especially today, is going to be your movement. Now, you don't have to be a movement god like you see these guys on, Twitch and on TikTok and stuff like that, doing these absolutely outrageous clips where they're doing spamming the YY and just doing crazy stuff. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to your movement, the main things that you want to be able to learn how to do is how to jump and shoot at the same time, being able to slide, and being able to do a simple drop shot. It's not the hardest thing ever to do. You just get in the habit of doing these things. And you'll see throughout my gameplay, whenever I'm rounding a corner or wherever I'm going into a room or anything like that, I'm either jumping or I'm sliding, because this is ultimately going to make it harder for you to get shot and killed because you're moving. Now, if you're just walking or even just running, it's easier to hit you. Now, if you're jumping or you're sliding, your body's going down, and the frames and stuff like that are going to be more in your favor as to not be getting hit. Now, when it comes to drop shotting, it's just something that I just started doing a long time ago, but you want to switch your settings to where you're on tactical, at least in my opinion, so that way you just naturally press the right thumbstick, whether you're on PlayStation or Xbox, and you're just doing that drop shot. Because, again, that's something that's really annoying, is to get drop shotted, but it's really effective when it comes to your movement. Again, you don't have to be a movement god. You don't have to be an absolute demon or anything like that to be efficient. You just have to be good enough to be able to slide, jump, and do these simple things constantly, just making yourself harder to hit and making yourself more efficient, with your movement overall. It's just going to help you out a bunch in the long run. Especially with how, these Call of Duties are going these days. It's a lot more fast-paced. They're even adding, wall running for Black Ops 7. So, even back in the day when you were doing the jetpacks and stuff like that, you had to be able to jump and shoot at the same time. It kind of added a skill gap. But, even in these newer Call of Duties, there's a skill gap with the movement and stuff like that. Being able to use it to your advantage, knowing how to, dive and shoot and stuff like that. There's a lot to it. So you definitely want to be able to take advantage of those things. And, again, you don't have to be crazy or anything like that. Like, just go and shoot bots, put them on recruit, play free-for-all on a smaller map, just test it out, slide and shoot a bunch, jump around corners and shoot, do your bunny hops, do your drop shots. It's going to be easy for you to do it there, and then once you pick it up and you're just doing it naturally, you can take it into public matches or even rank play and start using it to get better at. So the next thing that I want to talk about that I think is super important as well is going to be your pacing. I think when it comes to Call of Duty, pacing is everything. Your decision making on the fly, it's super important. So when I talk about pacing, there's times when you need to push and there's times when you don't need to push. So obviously, if you're getting a bunch of kills, that means the team is going to be respawning on the opposite side of the map most likely. And then there's times when a lot of your teammates are dead and you might want to hang back a little bit, because this is going to help you play your life a little bit better and end up staying alive. And I think that something that I do pretty often, I'm not a camper by any means. I like to run around the map, and push things and play the objective and stuff like that. But I think something that I do really well all the time is I like to lock down lanes, especially with an AR. If you're pretty good with an AR, you want to pick that up, hold a power position, and just lock it down and run that little route that you have, and just continue doing that little route and make sure that you're being ratty, and make sure you're not in the same position every time, but hold down a lane and make sure that nobody's behind you. Constantly check your back. Don't ever stop moving. You know what I mean? I think that when you stop moving, you're going to die when it comes to Call of Duty. If you ever stop moving, you're most likely going to die. Even when I'm staying in around like the same general area, I'm constantly throwing shoulders and moving around, because it's just going to make you easier to not hit. So again, I think pacing is super important in Call of Duty if you're trying to stay alive and play your life and get those bigger streaks up and make sure that you're getting more kills than your deaths or anything like that. You have to understand pacing, because there's going to be times when you need to play fast and there's going to be times when you need to play slow. But generally, I think that having a faster tempo and having a controlled tempo is the best way to go, because you'll see when you play in ranked play, as you start to climb the ranks and get into higher lobbies, you'll notice how fast these guys are playing, and it's their ability to be able to play at a high pace but also be able to make really good decisions and make the right decisions on the fly. I think the last thing that is really important when it comes to Call of Duty is understanding your play style. Are you more of a longer range player, picking up an AR or an LMG if you're playing in public matches? Or are you crazy, you like to move around a lot, super ratty with an SMG, you like to push, you like to be on the enemy side of the map and stuff like that? In this, gameplay, I do a little bit of both, and that's because I get frustrated and I end up changing guns and stuff like that. And I think it's going to make me play better if I change my weapons. But ultimately, I think, understanding what weapons you're really good at using and what weapons you're not good at using is really important. You know, obviously playing towards the meta, using the better guns. Don't try to use the worst guns ever and stuff like that. Understand the meta, understand what works. You know, also you want to play with what you're good at, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not doing yourself a disservice by using one of the worst guns in the game. So at the end of the day, I think the best way to get better at these games is to just play them more. Go into, you know, a private lobby, load up some bots, play on a smaller map, test your movement out, kill some bots, get your aim better, always warm up against bots. That's something you'll notice that the pros do. They're always warming up shooting bots. So anyways, I think that's going to be it for today. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back in the future with more content. Peace.